Is one session worth it for somebody, or do they need to do the 2 or 3 sessions that are recommended for really serious trauma? And if they don't, is there any concerns that people need to be aware of?
Well, if you were coming in for nail biting or passing your driving test or fear of flying, then you can absolutely work on that in one session. RTT is amazing at one session for many, many things. Like somebody might be saying, I'm going for IVF, and can you really make me believe it's going to work? I'm going for surgery. I want to have that under hypnosis. So you can do a lot of stuff in one session. But of course, with trauma, you should really do at least 3 sessions, often even more. So RTT is rapid therapy, which means you don't need a lot of sessions. You certainly don't need to go every week for a year or even 6 months, but depending on the client and depending on the issue. So somebody who has got anorexia or bulimia or acute depression will certainly benefit from several sessions, but it's never lots and lots of sessions, because therapy is effective to the degree that it changes your neural pathways. That's what neuroplasticity means, that your thoughts are creating new neural pathways. And while you create new neural circuits, you're also dismantling the old ones. So you need to get someone to change their neural circuits. How do you do that? Well, you have a session followed by a recording. We know the mind learns by repetition. We know the mind works to make our thoughts real. So when I have a session with the client, I go, look, the session is really important, but the recording is also important. You must play that to wire in, fire in, and code in the change. I will say, no, I never played that recording ever. I stopped smoking immediately. I just spoke to someone today, said, I've stopped smoking, I've stopped drinking, I've lost 80 pounds, and I hardly ever play those recordings, but that's okay. But I much prefer my clients to play the recording, because I want them to wire in and fire in those powerful changes. And so sometimes they don't play them, but mostly they do, because it makes them feel so good. So if I make a client a recording that makes them feel good, and I say things like, you love this recording, the more you play it, the better you feel, the more you play it, I know that they'll play it. And that's really my job, to do a great session, but to make the recording so good that the client says, oh, I love playing that. Every time I play it, I hear something different. It really changes my state. I think better thoughts, so I feel better, so I act better. And I'm here in Estonia now working with kids of 9, teaching them, about looping thoughts and how thoughts become feelings, become actions, and how that's just a loop. And it's amazing to see kids of 9 really get it, that we can all change our thoughts. It's not even hard work, but we do have to repeat it.
Yeah, when we look at the work of reprogramming the subconscious mind, we know that whenever we're in that theta brainwave state, that's kind of that essential state. That's also hypnosis or deep meditation, or that light sleep state, right? When we're right before we're passing into sleep, or right when we're waking up. That's kind of that sweet spot brain wave state where we pass the thinking mind and go into the subconscious mind. And that's the time where, if we're listening to any of these positive reaffirming recordings, where we're going to get the most physiological and neurological benefits, right? Yeah, because it excites the imagination. In hypnosis, the critical faculty that says, or the critical factor that says, I could never do this, it shuts down. And so often we think, oh, I couldn't ask that person out. I couldn't possibly ask for help. I wouldn't know how to do that. But when you go into that theta state and the critical factor shuts down, you can do things that you thought you couldn't do. You can speak to people. You can take a risk. You can do a TED talk. There's so many things that you can do when you need to always get your mind on your side. And so you're right, when you get into that theta state where you're exciting the imagination using words that make positive pictures, the mind goes very quickly from I can't to I can. That's why I'm here with, and the same thing with these children. We do a 5-day challenge. It's called I can't to I can. And they begin to understand that when, last week I had a little triangle mapped out on the floor, and I had the kids start at point 1 and think a negative thought. And then they had to run to point 2
and think of a negative feeling that matched the thought. Then they had to run to point 3 and think of a behavior. So one of them might say, I can't make friends. So I'm running to point 2. What's the feeling? I feel sad. What's the behavior? I'm crying. Another kid said, I can't do math. I'm run to a feeling. I feel frustrated. I'm acting out. And in running this loop, they were seeing, oh, I think a thought, I feel a feeling. I act as though when I justify because I think the thought. Then, of course, we switched it all to, I'm thinking, I can make friends. How do I feel confident? What are the actions? I talk to other kids. I invite them back for play dates. So even at 9, they got it that thought always comes first. And we're so busy trying to change the behavior, trying to change the when we got to really just change the thought, because that actually changes everything. And it's so great to do this with little kids of 6, 9, 10, 11. And on Friday, I'm doing it with teenagers, because they begin to understand that we don't have to feel helpless or hopeless or out of control. We have to take control of our thoughts, change them, make them positive, and that actually changes everything.
What would you say for people tuning in who want to find a deeper connection to a purpose that can give them more meaning for life and pull them forward out of disease and into, a stronger life of fulfillment and happiness?
Yeah, because, one of the main causes of depression is not a chemical imbalance in your brain at all. And I was reading today these studies that show that whole thing about low serotonin are totally flawed. There is no study that can look at the chemical balance of your brain and go, oh, you've got an imbalance. That was made up by a pharmacist. Any doctor will tell you that you can't test for a chemical imbalance in someone's brain, because it's probably not even true. And it's only in my experience, but I had been doing it for 35 years, I found that one of the major causes of depression was failing to follow your heart's desire, not doing what made your heart sing. And I had many clients say, well, at 20, I went into the family law firm. At 25, I joined the family accountancy firm, or I thought I better be a teacher because that's what my dad was. And here I am at 55, chronically depressed because it's too late now to follow my heart. I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to be a golf teacher. I wanted to be a dancer. And I've left it too late. And actually, it's not really ever completely too late. But that is one of the causes of depression, not following your heart's desire. But how do you follow your heart's desire? It's a good question. So you have to think of what sparks joy. What, when you're doing it, makes you feel really good. Because if you can find out what you love and you can monetize it, you'll always feel amazing. And one of the keys is, what did you love doing between the age of 7 and 14? It could be 5 and 16. But if you can think back to what did you love to do? My daughter was always making clothes out of Kleenex for her tiny little figures, her little Sylvanian family. And now she's got her own fashion line. And so that's clearly always what she wanted to do. Someone else said, I was always making puzzles as a kid, and here I am now, I'm a strategist. So if you can go back and recall, what did you love to do? Because you're here in life actually to find out what your gift is and to become amazing at it. Some people are going to be amazing chefs, amazing designers, amazing storytellers, amazing artists, amazing inventors, amazing pharmacists. And we're not all supposed to be the same, but you are here to find out what your gift is, to be amazing at it, and to monetize it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we should be teaching kids in school that. We shouldn't be saying, hey, you've got to be good at everything. That's just nonsense. You're only supposed to be good at one thing. In Finland, or I was on Sunday, the kids only go to lessons they like. Science kids go to science, other kids go to IT, because they know if you love that lesson, that is where you're going to be making your money. That's where your profession is going to be. I couldn't imagine having the patience to plant seeds and grow plants. I couldn't imagine having the patience to try out new recipes, but for someone else, that sparks so much joy in them. And so we should really look at how we educate kids. And many kids say to me, I'm not good at math. I'm like, darling, you're good at sport. Let someone else be good at math. But if your desire is to be an architect, why have you got to learn Latin? Why have you got to learn something that's not interesting to you? And I think we waste so much time here in Estonia, kids have to learn 4 different languages. It's extraordinary. I was working with one this week who said, I've got to learn English, Swedish, Estonian, and I've forgotten the 3rd language. It might have been Spanish or Mandarin. And that's so hard to make kids learn 4 languages. 2 is enough. It used to be that everyone had to learn French. We now think, well, what's the point of that? You're better to learn Mandarin or Spanish. So I think the whole education system, because it rewards achievement, not effort. You get a prize if you do a good piece of work, but you may have put no time into that work. There may be another kid who's put hours of work in and didn't get the prize because they weren't gifted. And I've always thought all schools should reward effort, not achievement, because then we're teaching you that effort is rewarded. And so I think you can find out what your purpose is. When you find out what your purpose is, when you find out what you love to do, you have purpose. When you share what you love, you have meaning.